The current leader, Laurent Fignon, who's won twice before. Greg LeMond, the winner in 1986 and who's led this year. Sean Kelly, who as of now has got the green, the combined and the red jerseys. Pedro Delgado, the champion, in trouble on day one, but right back in the Tour now. There's Charlie Motti, the world #1, Gert-Jan Teunissen and his teammate Steven Rooks, always side by side. The winner this year is likely to emerge from this group. Hello again. The Tour, though, typically still has time for the hopeful stage raider. How about Rudy Darnens, who jumped away yesterday and would have won, but for some terrible luck.
Now Darnens swings into the headwind. Oh, he's gone down! Rudy Darnens has missed the bend.
Darnens lost the tyre from his back wheel after misjudging that final bend, and it cost him. Rudy Darnens from the PDM outfit, who collectively are going really well now. They're top of the team classification. In contrast, we lost the Kelmer outfit yesterday, led of course by Fabio Parra. Here's Phil.
The coffee this morning, Richard, has a bittersweet taste to it. It is, of course, Café de Colombia. It comes from South America. It's a company that majors on the Tour de France to sell coffee in Europe, and there isn't a Colombian rider now in sight of winning this year's Tour de France. Yesterday, they lost Fabio Parra, who finished third last year. All of his Kelmer team are now on the way home. What are they going to do now if they're majoring as a promotion and they don't have any riders to back them up? The answer appears that Kelmer next year will merge with the Postobon team, a team which already exists in Colombia and indeed has ridden in the Tour de France before. And to make sure that they are figuring in the top of the Tour de France next year, they're going to buy in some of the top stars. One name being conjured with is that of Steven Roach. Well, that's next year, but what about yesterday in the Tour de France? It was a fairly routine day, and for the first time we had all the riders come to the finish together. One rider, of course, was at the back, and that was Rudy Darnens. Yesterday in the press room, there really wasn't a dry eye in the house, because everybody's heart went out with Rudy when he fell on that final bend. He just simply said, "I thought that the finish was on a left-hand bend." He looked at the plan before he arrived there. It didn't indicate it was a full horseshoe corner. And of course he shot it and crashed. Well, no change overall in the Tour de France, just a bunch sprint. And today may well be the same. It's a lovely morning here in Toulouse. We expect the weather to stay with us all the way to Montpellier. It'll be a good day's racing though. We would now just love Sean Kelly to get the win he so richly deserves.
The stage today, stage 12, is 233.5 kilometres, 145 miles. That could mean anything up to 7 hours in the saddle today. It's another flat stage, the Tour moving east now towards the Alps. Let's join the action with Paul Sherwin and Phil Liggett.
And so as the field roll out in the warmer sunshine of the Tour de France today, there's an air of joviality as Sean Kelly in the green jersey shared a joke here with Steven Rooks. Apparently they've been passed up a love letter from the fans in the crowd. But after only 19 kilometres, after the first catch sprint, the leading breakaway was already taking form. Dominic Arnaud winning here ahead of the Italian Valerio Tebaldi, and the third place was taken by Primoz Serin. So the two leaders persisted, Arnaud in the blue and Tebaldi from the Chateau Dax team, and they were being chased at about a minute by Giancarlo Perini of Italy. And then we move on to the second catch where Tebaldi was the winner here from Arnaud. The lead 1 minute 42 seconds ahead of Perini and 3 minutes 29 seconds ahead of the main field. But there was also bad news for Ireland again today, because in the Voiture Ballet, the Sagwagon, Paul Kimmage retires from the race apparently with low morale, and the general feeling amongst all of the followers on the Tour is that he may well retire from cycling as well. And the first crash of the day, Acacio da Silva, the first leader of the Tour de France when we rolled away from Luxembourg on July the 2nd, in big trouble at the back of the race after only a few kilometres covered. Well, although it looks quite serious, da Silva, with the help of his teammates, was helped back into the race. But now as we join the three leaders here, they've established a lead, would you believe, of 29 minutes. And the three leaders together, Tebaldi, Arnaud and Perini, are clear of the field, but back in the main field. I have to tell you another major crash which has happened 56 kilometres from the finish. 20 riders went down, and among them some of the main contenders for this year's Tour de France. Johnny Bunyo has gone down, Ver.Ⅱ the man who's leading, the king of the mountains, Robert Miller too, who was no doubt shadowing Ⅱ to make sure that there was no attacks today for the few points on hand in the Tour de France King of the Mountains competition, and Steve Bauer and Claude Coquillon all among the fallers, and Robert Miller was helped back into the main field by all of the Ver.Ⅱ team. And now at the front of the race, the three leaders hitting all sorts of problems because they've come up against trees across the road, a demonstration. And this again, where demonstrators are using the platform of the Tour de France to get the publicity for whatever their grumble is against life. And the three leaders losing a few seconds here while they're helped through the mess of branches on the road and breaking clear. The field behind now are at 27 minutes. And more problems again at the back of the race because this is another crash here, and this is the third major pile-up of the day. And among the fallers here, Eddie Shapers in the Fagor jersey, the red jersey here, and the man lying on the floor, Toshiba rider Denis Roux. And he doesn't look too good at the moment, but the field goes on, and we've cut to the leaders, and this is Dominique Arnaud, who's down a ditch. Dominique Arnaud has gone from the front. What a Tour de France this is turning out to be. It was a routine day, supposedly today. 3 crashes in the back of the race, and now we're back with the front runners, and Dominique Arnaud is also in trouble. So as Arnaud gets back on his bike and settles down to chase the 2 leaders, it all seems to be happening today, so come back soon after the break.
It seems like most of the riders at one time or another in trouble. There's been crash after crash. Let's hope they can stay in the saddle now between here and the finish at Montpellier. Let's rejoin Phil Liggett. Phil.
Well, there are the 2 leaders, Richard, and in fact Arnaud, who crashed, is now over 2 minutes behind these 2 leaders. Valerio Tebaldi is the second man here. Giancarlo Perini is in front of him. 2 Italians racing towards the stage finish in the Tour de France today, and that's not something you see very often in the French race because the Italians don't enjoy a great tour normally. But Tebaldi has won a stage here a year ago in Reims, and he did that, and he absolutely cried his eyes out. He was so delighted. He looks to be the strongest, Paul, at the moment, doesn't he?
He's looked to be the strongest all the time of this race breakaway's been away. You can see here, we go back to the bunch, you've got the System U team at the front. There's been an awful lot of problems in this race today. One looks like Jean-Claude Colotti there, calling his team car up. He may well have a puncture. Somebody else there looks like one of the Madio brothers just dropping back. He may well have a problem as well. There's been a lot of crashes today. I think what is probably the reason is because the riders are very, very tired. We've had a very hard first 10 days. We've just come out of 2 really hard days in the mountains, and the riders are losing a little bit of their reflexes, which is why we've seen so many crashes. Back in the front of the race, here's Tebaldi taking a little bit of a breather, and he looks that much more comfortable than Perini at the moment. But in a sprint like this, after a 140-mile breakaway, it's difficult to predict who's going to win. But Tebaldi does look very strong.
20 kilometres to go for the main field. The leaders are inside 4 kilometres to go, so they're 10 miles ahead of the bunch here, all under the escort of the Super U Rally team, with Laurent Fignon in yellow, happy with the way the day is going. Although the lead of the others is still over 22 minutes, Tebaldi is 1 hour 9 minutes behind Fignon this morning. Dominique Arnaud had the most to gain, 34 minutes back, but of course he's losing a bit of time now in no man's land between Bunch and the 2 leaders. Perini, by the way, is 72 minutes back, so there's no real worry as far as overall positions is concerned.
Which is why we just flick back to the front there. There's Tebaldi taking that corner quite widely and gingerly, just to make sure that nothing happens to him as happened to Dominique Arnaud, which is very unfortunate for Arnaud. He's been away since the 20th kilometre. After 12 miles, this break of riders went away, and there we go under the 3 kilometre to go banner. These riders taking it very, very careful in the town. They know they've got a lot to play with. They've got over 2 minutes on Dominique Arnaud and 25 minutes on the bunch, so they don't want to do something stupid or something unfortunate happened to Rudy Darnans yesterday.
And the bunch is very active, but for the wrong reasons today, because there's been so many crashes behind. They're looking behind here now because after the last crash, which involved Denis Roux, who, by the way, is back on his way, although a little bit stunned, the field broke into 3 bunches, and as far as we know, the leaders of the Tour were all in the front bunch. But there's been a lot of chasing by teammates to try and get back up. But there's a lot of riders at the back of this bunch looking to see if their teammates are approaching them, and if they are, they'll drop off and help them make the last few yards back into the safety of the big pack today. And we are now at 1 kilometre to go for the two leaders. Tebaldi is leading as we enter the streets of Montpellier. He checks his toe straps and makes sure he's ready for the sprint. Perini now unwilling to come by him. Now the cat and mouse tactics begin, and they have plenty of time. No need to worry. The main field at least 25 minutes back at the moment. And Dominique Arnaud has lost over 2 minutes, so he won't be
at the back, just waiting. Perini on the front.
Well, it should be a formality for Tebaldi if he comes off smoothly, but you never know. Now he goes on the left, builds up the revs, and I don't think Perini will have it. Although Perini's giving him a good race, but it's going to be very close. No, Tebaldi gets it. Tebaldi gets it. He gives a whoop of delight and he comes over the line. Tebaldi beats Perini. And the next man home will be Dominique Arnaud. So, 2 years running, he's won a stage in the Tour de France, but he didn't finish the Tour de France after his victory in Reims last year. And this is Dominique Arnaud now coming up to the line while the main field are 15 kilometres still to go to the finish. He comes in 2 minutes and 9 seconds behind this man, Tebaldi. And this is the main field as we come to the 10th kilometre to go banner, just 6 miles for the bunch. And it's interesting to note that all of the System U team have been at the front for a long, long time now. Nobody helping them. They're making sure that, in fact, their man, Laurent Fignon, is brought safely to the finish and will keep the yellow jersey with that advantage over Greg LeMond of just 7 seconds. Sean Kelly on the far right of our picture there had the green jersey on. There's Laurent Fignon, always riding near the front. And Tebaldi is now actually just sitting alongside me here, watching the race on television. What a lovely feeling that must be. You've won the stage of the Tour de France. Sit back, relax and drink and see the rest do the work. Quite incredible. And it looks now, Paul, as though this bunch is actually getting itself back together. It was split into 3, but it seems to be now as though we've got at least 80 riders here.
Yeah, well, at one time the race was split into 3 pieces, but the System U rally team on the front here, they haven't actually been chasing. They've just been setting a tempo to keep the bunch rolling along. There's no real need for them to pull themselves inside out and chase this group away because they were just not important overall. So, as you can see by the speed, it's not really a speed which is pulling the bunch out into a long line. What has happened is the System U rally team have been on the front, keeping a tempo just to get them to the finish.
Attacked by rider from Ver.Ⅱ going clear. And this is Philippe Lubio, the rider who so nearly won that stage into Pau when he was caught in a kilometre from the finish. And of course Martin Early went on to snatch the prize. Lubio going against Gilles Saunders, I think, this year, which cost him the stage. Inside the last kilometre now to the finish. 800 metres to go, and Regmuller might have read it right. A good move, Paul. One you'd admire, I think.
Well, he went just as the attacks came back together again. It's the ideal situation. The old 1-2, he went straight over the top. When he goes round this corner, he's going to come into the finishing straight with about 500 metres to go. And the bunch now look as if they've sat up a little bit, resigned to the fact that Wegmuller went at the right psychological moment. And Wegmuller is incredibly fast rider when he gets away. He was a rider who raced with Sean Kelly last year, and he was one of Sean Kelly's right-hand men because he led him out to 1 or 2 very good sprints.
Well, there he is. He swings into the straight, and there's the gap on the left of our screen since Tebaldi crossed the line. Over 21 minutes, the crowd leading forward, and they're going to see Thomas Wegmuller. And look at the gap he opened in that last kilometre. He's going to have the whole finishing straight to himself as he crosses the line. The field comes round, that's split as well. And Franz Masson is going to have a go on the right of the screen here. Le Marchand is up there too. No sign at all of Sean Kelly. Ackerman is in this group. But it's going to be possibly Ackerman, I think, on the line. But is it going to be Masson who takes it? No, it's not. As they cross the line there, the man who took it was Jan Goossens of the Domex team. And in fact, it was Franz Masson who will have got the 6th place. The whole field home, a long way behind the winners today, but it won't make 1 iota of difference in the Tour de France overall. Laurent Fignon keeps that yellow jersey.
Well, full of surprises this year's race, isn't it? Who would have predicted two riders jumping the bunch like that and finishing more than 20 minutes clear? Well, that's how it finished. In fact, Tibaldi, Perini, Arnaud, who was robbed of a chance to win it after crashing, Thomas Wegmuller led the peloton across 21 minutes and 24 seconds back.